sources to subsidize interest payments to something. And I'm not even talking about the legality of any of that. I'm not subsidizing it. Maybe as a one-off of its own yield curve, obviously, different reasons, right? The bank's tradition. If you're a miner sitting on $1 billion miners, we've got all basically sitting on forms of collateral. And then depositors that have done DeFi. That's a piece of our business, but it has grown and we've taken a very slow, methodical tack to that in terms of contract audits, amounts of money don't look right to us and our team, et cetera. But it's actually been extremely lucrative for the small amount of our business that we've done it with. And I wish we were in a position to go faster. That the market is really ready. And we've seen that do a lot more code auditing, I'm guessing, than we use DeFi. The net of all, we offer direct function models I just described, which have a based upon where right and for others because miners are setting up. But this is fast enough, right? These aren't ready. The transformers are here yet. So in some cases, there's a 12 to waiting line in the US. So that's limiting some of the streaming higher. Some of the exchanges are borrowing. Those markets are the Bitcoin prices. Things going on, different things that are at play here. And then there's different projects. Action for different reasons. If Cardano system and the staking numbers in circulation, and that has implications. This is happening at the same time in a way the system has evolved in its versus the traditional. You can't pay interest on bonds, it's forever. Question about where this is going. Do it in very small amounts. Very, very long. Rates are high enough right now where it's unsustainable, probably likely in certainly less than 5 years out. I suspect space. Bitcoin rates specifically will have to, unless you're paying in, meaning in dollars, rewards coin, or something besides Bitcoin. It's just the math just doesn't work. It's unclear how this is going to potentially becoming deflationary for the first. We have a few days left. Deflating will evolve. Super interesting. Again, one has been method and yield and be very transparent. I get the same question every Friday on Money Talk. Every Friday, I'm happy to go into in depth, much longer than I am even right now, on the explanation of how we generate that yield.
Talk to us about stablecoin yields. What's your expectation for that in a 5-10 year frame? Because yields are in a different universe compared to the 10-year treasury. And expectation in 5 years from now that it's even more extreme.
Yeah, but so is venture debt. The fact that I can earn 50x what I might earn in a bank account is not really the option to make 10% yield via lending, right? I mean, yield stream. And by the way, I went out and tested every single one of these services. I launched Abra for a few years. I'm still waiting to get money back on some of those services. High yield, worked in fixed income at Goldman. Lots of ways to generate yield as different models. And so let's be totally honest and transparent. This is not a riskless investment that you're making. We map each individual deposit to a specific lending, and we have a risk management process for doing that. Liquid cash and risk management model works, and I'm comfortable.
Because it's over.
No, level is in, I know who the borrowers are. I know how we onboard the borrowers, how deep we go in due diligence. I know how the DeFi piece of this works, et cetera, et cetera. And so I sit in on those investment committee meetings when we're onboarding the counterparties. I listen to risk management. So firsthand, I know what's going on. It's not tenable for everyone to sit in on that meeting, but it is my job to articulate in forums like this that I'm comfortable with that process because I helped prove it and present it to our board. So it allows us to understand that this is not a risk-less. Any service out there that's offering yield on that's telling you risk-free return, they're lying to you. And so as a space front of investments here.
Billy, have you ever considered breaking the company into almost two different entities? All the risk of, because your institution, my understanding is the model for a lot of the borrowing and lending platforms that retail. So that those institutions for not being over collateralized spill over into the retail investors. Have you ever considered firewalling through a different number so that if retail people wanted to ensure that there was no rehypothecation and absolutely over collateralized and that the risk of institutions couldn't spill into their deposits, do you think that there would be a market for this? Is this something that you've seen, and do you think that this is a good idea in the first place?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this, and as a customer, I've thought about it. I demand would be there quite yet. I would venture a guess a lot of the people right now dig into the detail of the question.
So they wouldn't want for yield.
Because they what are you talking about, Preston? I don't understand the right? Mm-hmm. Just tell me how much yield I can make. Now, on the other hand, I'm all in. I manage my liquid assets this way, cash and crypto. So I'm not looking for a junk bond here. And so we're managing our own money because that having been said, I'm not saying I don't like the idea you just outlined. I'm just saying that I think the demand,
you don't think the market's
large scale is there for that.
If you had to guess, how much of a drop in yield would this be? Because I agree with you. I think that if you would present it as a product, the people out there, at least the people that I do, your hardcore Bitcoin zealots, and I mean I'm one of them. Not making fun of anybody. I think that small niche group of people totally get this, but they're very small in volume, and you're a business trying to make money, and the conversation that you'll have on the street is, hey, I'm getting X from this platform, and I should probably switch over to that platform because there's no discussion what on yield. So what kind of yield do you think a person would get if they were buying a product like this versus what you're...
I honestly don't know about it.
Do you think it'd be significant? I guess that's more of what I'm asking. Because I suspect it would be.
Probably. Dan Held has done a really good job of tracking the space in what I would call a responsible way. And he publishes a Google Sheet of where he's testing services. Puts a lot of time into this, which has nothing to do with his day job. And he's, I call him a friend. We talk on occasion, and we just met at an event in Mexico and caught up. And I'm very impressed, not just because he's also chosen Zabra, but because of the level of detail and the amount of time he's put into this. So people high interest services as well as retail lending.
Jack Muller's had a big announcement recently where he's doing zero fee trades, but just for Bitcoin. He's focusing solely on Bitcoin and ignoring everything else. I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this. Does this pose a major competitive risk to other exchanges that have every token known demand listed on their exchanges? Is he going to eat into one of their largest revenue sources by taking it to a zero fee?
I like what Strike is doing. I like the idea of using look where I came from. I like the idea of using Lightning for money transfer. I'm enamored with it. I'm spending probably too much time on it right now in terms of my own time, digging in, understanding how nodes work, the economic incentives of nodes. I realize it's not what you're asking, but that's their core business right now. Now, he's extended that by saying, if you don't have the Bitcoin, I'll give it to you with no spread. And I think that's what. I don't know how their app works in detail. I think they have an ACH function. The way the app is set up today, it's not going to eat into the speculative buyer market. At least I don't think so. Beyond a lot of the hardcore Bitcoin maximalists who are huge fans of his, and deservedly so. But beyond that, I don't see. There's a lot of competition out there. It's not just about price. And so he will get some business there, but I think he's going to find that in the app, you can borrow. We can borrow globally pretty much, but in the U.S., it's 6 or 47 states that just turned on. Was it Wisconsin or another state today? And so California and New York are coming. There's, I think, 1 or 2 other states. So, and then if you want to borrow more than 100,000, we'll onboard you directly outside the app. And so we've had a lot of borrowers in the VC space moving from San Francisco to Miami who've actually borrowed the down payments for their home from app. And now this is creating problems in the mortgage space. And I went through this recently because of buying a home in Northern California. I'm one of the holdouts who's not leaving. So the banks won't deal with crypto. They just will not. Back to the original comment around lending.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about home mortgages. So how do you basically deal with qualifying for a mortgage if you're, like, let's call it crypto rich in any way whatsoever? It's a big problem. So my answer to that person's question is, I hope so. I hope we do end up having to solve this problem because it is a big problem and our lending business is growing quickly and it's created this problem.
So help me understand, because a person who'd be borrowing against their Bitcoin is paying a really high yield. Somebody obviously doesn't want to pay that type of yield when they're borrowing for a house payment that might take them years or whatever time frame.
Well, that's different. What I'm saying is that you may be willing to use Bitcoin as collateral for a down payment, but that doesn't mean you qualify for the mortgage. Because most banks, if you simply borrow against the Bitcoin on Monday, won't take it for the down payment on Tuesday because they're going to insist on the source of the funds. And they're going to see it's a Bitcoin collateralized loan and go, whoa, done. We're done. and so now they'll come back to Abra and say, can you help me? And they haven't. So I could easily see Abra now needing to get into that primary business because the source of the equity for the down payment part of the business isn't recognized by the banking system. And by the way, these tend to be very wealthy people in the U.S. who have a higher net worth and more stable income and are probably better borrowers.
Well, they can probably pay off the house 3 to 10 times over.
Yeah, but they don't want to pay capital gains or just being smart. But the banks can't get out of their own way. So I think this is a huge opportunity. And the answer is, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up going full tilt into the mortgage business.
So how do you get around that, though?
You figure out how to underwrite.
Ah, I gotcha.
So they're 2 different loans, right? So one is crypto collateralized, the other one's not. But if you can't get the other loan any other way, and let's just say, at scale, that's worth 100 basis points. That's huge.
For the underwriter, they're really just concerned that the collateral is still over collateralized, right? So
you're giving them a lot of credit right now. I think they hear the word Bitcoin and they're like, we're done. I honestly don't think it's as sophisticated as what you're giving them credit for. And this is with firsthand knowledge, by the way. So I'm not. All